and we have with us Avishai. And so we're building it up a little bit. We had hotel, and in the morning we're going to build it up to adding a layer of security, and that's the next 25 minutes or so.
Take your lead.
Thank you. Okay, hi everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Avishai. I work for Microsoft, and I'm also the co-chair of the Best Practices Working Group at the Open Source Security Foundation. So, why am I here, right? I'm here basically because I believe that a multidisciplinary approach to security is the way forward, right? Because if we keep security to the B-sides, if we keep security to the black hats, right, we are just preaching to the choir. However, if we all work together and we have a reason to work together, then I think that that is much a better future for us all. So what brings me to this optimistic assumption? Let's do a quick test here, right? So, with a raise of hands, can I see any maintainers of an open or an inner source project, right? So you are part of the core team, DevOps team, development team. Okay, quite a few people are maintainers here. Thank you, right? Thank you for your great software. Thank you very much. Contributors. So you contributed to an open or an inner source project. You opened an issue. You wrote some documentation. Raise of hands? Okay, a bit more people. Makes sense, right? Last question, I promise. Any consumers of open or inner source projects, right? Okay, so obviously everyone already raised their hands at least once, and typically more than once, right? Because that's just the nature of the software supply chain, right, that we are all part of. And you can think of it as a loop, right? We produce code, so contributors and maintainers produce a lot of code, and that is being consumed on the right-hand side by the downstream consumers or the users. And that feeds back the process. And of course, you know, it's not a linear chain like we see here, right? It's not as simplistic as this, because a real application won't have just one dependency, right? Typically, it will have like 5, 10, 15 different dependencies, right? And that's just one layer down, right? If we drill to the transitive dependencies, then we get 25, right? Because each one of those had 5 of their own dependency. And you can see that this tree gets damn thick, damn fast, right? And by the time it gets to the user, that also has to also sees the dependencies of the operating system, of the cloud infrastructure, of the client technology that they are using, then of course the complexity is great. And moreover, it raises really interesting questions about trust and about security. And in the end, right, if there is a breach, if there is an exploit of a vulnerability within any of the chain that we saw, right, it doesn't really matter to the user. But who pays the highest price? Who stands to pay the highest price if a breach is taking place? It's obviously the user, right? And here you can see the user really wanting to be the user of a different service, right? Not your service, but some other service that didn't go through that breach. And obviously, we don't want that, right? So that brings me back to my original question, why do we care, right? Why DevOps, why software engineers, data scientists, TPMs need to care about security? It's because we love our users, right? And we want our users to keep loving our wonderful software. So what it boils down to is we should care about security because we care about our downstream consumers and about our users. And you know, those users, they have expectations, right? It's funny that way. They expect that the software that they are using is adequately secure. Okay, let's give it the minimum. And they expect that the data is private. Okay? And those expectations can also be enforced, right, by governments, by courts, by regulators. Of course, we all know about Cyber Resilience Act, AI Act, US executive orders. All of those are ways to enforce those expectations on us, right, the software providers. And that's because a breach causes harm, right? It harms the software users, it harms our organizations, and we don't want that. We don't want that because that has cost. And cost has implications on our jobs, right? It's not even that we can turn a blind eye, right, on these threat vectors, on this question of trust and security that I raised earlier, right? Because the numbers, if we look at the numbers of exploitations of this software supply chain, are increasing, right? So we can take 2024, we saw the same number as 2023 backwards, right? The sum of. And you know what? That was exactly my line in 2024, and it was my line in 2023, and so the problem is still there. So those are like your xzutils attack, right? Or the log4shell or log4j, which everyone heard about, right? So these are the numbers that we see here. And you know, it's not just numbers. It's also the sheer sophistication of those attacks, right? So here, for instance, we see the time of the xzutil attack, right? So you can see that the threat actor, presumably nation-state actor, that started planning the attack 2 years before it actually became exploitable. More than that, they noticed at some point that the final pull request that they would suggest to insert the malicious code would be detected by one of the CI/CD tools that runs a dynamic application security testing, right? OSS files in this case. So again, presumably, they disabled this check at the source. And only then they could merge the final PR and be able to exploit that attack. Right, so the sophistication here is very, very impressive. And you know, for me, I work for Microsoft for a very special team. We love acronyms at Microsoft. I don't know if you know, everything is 3-letter acronyms. So my team is called Industry Solutions Engineering, or ISE, and we engage with hyperscale customers for engineering customer success, you can say, right? So we co-engineer together with our customers, and obviously those customers, the biggest pharma, the biggest banking organizations, they care about this, right? They worry about that. So we started asking ourselves, as an org, how can we improve, right? How can we bring safer, how can we build safer software with our customers? So one of the first tools, and by the way, much of the work that we do is in open source, right? So we were looking for solutions that are open source and that address the open source supply chain security issues. So one of the first tools that we started using is Scorecard. Raise of hands, anyone heard using Scorecard? Okay, some hands, cool. What is Scorecard? So Scorecard is first and foremost an evaluation tool, right? It works on the repository level, and it's great for evaluating threats that are around, for instance, malicious maintainers, malicious packages, compromises to the source code or to the build system. And the way that it works, right, is that it analyzes the actual repository, so your settings on GitLab or GitHub or GitHub Enterprise or ADO, sorry, 3-letter acronyms, Azure DevOps. And it runs a set of 18 checks, which are built in. There are more checks, which are extension of those, but those are heuristics, right? So they address different types of security of threats in the open source security, in the open source supply chain. Each one of those heuristics has a risk level associated to it, right? So you can think about branch protection, pretty risky, versus having CI tests, medium to low risk, right? And once we weigh all of those different heuristics together, we get a score of 1 to 10, which gives us a pretty good feel to the security awareness of the project. No more, no less, okay? And I'm saying this on purpose. Some use cases for Scorecard. So first, as an individual maintainer, when we work with our customers, one of the first things that we would do before we open source a project is run Scorecard to get a checklist, right, of things that we can improve. For instance, the branch protection can be improved. For instance, you don't have static code analysis, right? You're not using CodeQL. Second use case is for an organization. So here, we're leveraging the Scorecard action to run it on all of our repositories, right, under our organization, to keep an acceptable minimal value. Here, by the way, you can see a snapshot from the Microsoft Open Source Program Office, right? So those are the folks who are responsible for all of Microsoft organizations in GitHub. And we get, as you can see here on the far right, a score, also a historic score, and also a breakdown of those different heuristics over time for each one of our open source projects. Now, it's important to note, we don't require a minimal value, right? But even surfacing this in an easily digestible way for our developers helps, right? And the last part is for consumers, right? So here we are planning to consume a new dependency. So we run Scorecard to see if, again, to get a feel for the security awareness of the project. Now, I know you're probably already thinking, you know, I can put this on my build and break my build if a new dependency is added and it has a score lower than X. That's a bit more tricky because a lower score doesn't necessarily mean that it's not secure. A high score does mean that it is. So breaking a build on top of that is a bit tricky. That's at least our experience. And you can also leverage the open data that Scorecard has of the project that run the Scorecard action. For instance, here, we can see it in devops.dev, that you can go and see any PyPI, Node.js, NuGet package, and see the breakdown of that score. Okay, so Scorecard is really great, and it's really, really been a game changer to my team. But let's ask ourselves in this SDLC, which part of the data flow diagram, so to speak, do we fix here? So that one. Right, so Scorecard helps us to analyze and mitigate some of the threats that when choosing a dependency to take into a project. However, obviously, the threat model, the full threat model of the SDL, of the software development lifecycle, should take into consideration all trust boundaries crossing, right? So for instance, if we have a trust boundary before when the developer pushes their code to the source control management system, that's one trust boundary to handle. There's another trust boundary here, right? When the consumers, either the next development team or the end user gets the published software, that's another trust boundary. Now, depending on your software development lifecycle architecture, right, if it's an enterprise or you are fully cloud, there might be more trust boundaries here, right? And that depends if your, for instance, your build system and your packaging system are in the same network, right? If they are, then it's not a trust boundary, and if they're not, then it is. So the question is, how can we tackle all of these threats? And that's exactly where the Open Source Security Foundation comes into play, right? So the Open Source Security Foundation I'm sorry for putting a very, very worn out image from the internet on my presentation, but I think it hits the nail on the head, right? Because every organization today leverages a lot of open source, right? And we don't really know if we can trust the open source that we consume. Typically we can, but sometimes we can't. And it's not just a Microsoft problem, right? Obviously, it's a shared problem by the industry, and that's why all of those organizations are backing up the Open Source Security Foundation, and the working groups have active participations by all of those organizations. And those organizations are really trying to tackle all of the threats across the software development lifecycle, right? So you can take things from the best practices working group, for instance, the scorecard that I just talked about. You can take the vulnerability disclosure working group, which works on the vulnerability information. For instance, if anyone heard about VEX or vulnerability exploitability, SBOM tooling under the supply chain integrity, and Alpha Omega, which takes the critical open source projects and works with them to improve their security. So key projects, SigStore, I think a very well-known name. Its marketing is that we want to become to digital signature what Let's Encrypt is to HTTPS, and I think they are making a very, very good way at that. Salsa, which enables us to make decisions about what kind of dependencies we want to take and trust in our software supply chain. GWAC, which turns SBOMs, or software bill of materials, into actionable graph. And the open source project security baseline, which enables interoperable resource for identification of security data. But of course, you know, it's not enough, just tools, right? DevOps is more than tools, right? And that's why, if we look at the SDLC, on the far left, and that's part of my passion, is about education, right? It's about reaching out, it's about learning. And some of the content that the best practices working group keeps on updating are the guides. And you can find more guides here, but I will note, for instance, the concise guide for developing more secure software, or the concise guide for evaluating open source software. The source code management platform configuration best practices was contributed by Legit Software, which is a cybersecurity startup. And we are currently working on security-focused guide for AI code assistant development. So vibe coding securely. Okay. If you want to take it a notch, one step forward, you can take our courses. So those courses are free, and they give you cool LinkedIn badges. For instance, the new Cyber Resilience Act for developers. So it has just enough legal, so even I could understand it. And it's a great intro into this world that's coming on top for all of us. And I would definitely invite managers to take this security for software developer managers, or for the developing secure software course. So that's almost it for me. I hope that I provided you with some actionable insights. I do invite you to join our calls. I think you would find it a very inclusive experience, and one that can actually make a lot of impact on this industry that we are on. I can assure you that 3 years ago, I wouldn't have dreamt to be in Devops Amsterdam, at Devopsdays Amsterdam, talking about security as a Linux Foundation member. And the open source world kind of like in the talk that Virginia had just before me, I hope you caught that, was a step forward in my career. So those are some more ways to catch us online, and feel free to connect with me, and I'll be happy to continue the discussion. Thank you. Any questions?
Hi, thanks for the presentation. How would you compare the Scorecard project with some commercial tools like Snook for the security vulnerability analysis and dependency analysis?
Yeah, cool. So that's a really, really good question, and one that I get a lot, right? So it doesn't replace them. I would say that Scorecard would make sure that you are using a tool like Snyk, right? So it wouldn't replace Snyk, but it would make sure that you are using a tool like it, right? For SCA, right? Or whatever you are using that for.
Thank you very much. And well, I was wondering, I've seen the threat modeling part in the that you recommend to add in the software development life cycle. And in terms of tools for threat modeling, I know that there are a lot of those, like Stride and Pasta, or things from Microsoft as well. I was wondering if you've got some say on that a bit, or yeah, thanks.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. So actually, one of my biggest pride is the threat modeling community that I chair at Microsoft. What we found is that nothing replaces, again, a multidisciplinary human eye on the architecture, right? So really like your old school data flow diagram, and then it doesn't really matter what tool you are using, right? There is the OWASP tool, there is the Microsoft tool, there are other tools, but having as many people look at the code and iterate over that is what we found works best. Sure.
Anybody else? No? In that case, I'd like to thank you very much.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you.
Stay with us. The next talk will be here in about, well, 4:50. Well, yeah, I can't read this anymore. 4:15. After which we'll close the day, which will include things like sponsor raffles. So if you, please join us, even if you're not intending to be here for the next talk, even though you should. Please come join us again after so you could be participating in the raffle and the end of day procedures. Thank you very much.
I'll walk up there. I'm going to ask you. That's scary, right? Just one minute. They don't. All right, folks. There's a couple seats here in the middle. I reserved them specifically for you. Go ahead. See? Oh, how nice is that? A seat for just you. All right, let's get started again. Our last talk of the day. We're going into the social event in about 45 minutes. But first up, I want to have a super massive loud applause for Buzra, because you're going to talk. We're going to talk about trust-driven teams. I am super excited.
Me too.
Stage is all yours. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we're good. Okay. Hi, everybody. I am so glad that you're all here. This is my first time giving a talk during Open Spaces. It's one of my favorite parts of the conference. And so I really appreciate you all choosing to be here. So thank you for that. Before we go anywhere today, I want you to imagine something. Close your eyes if that's your thing, or just keep them open. But imagine being part of this glorious team where you get to focus on what you're really good at. You use your strongest skills, but you also learn a couple of things that actually genuinely excites you. When you're on leave, you don't worry about checking your Slack or catching up on your alerts because you know your team got your back. You know why your work also matters. You can actually match them with the business goals, and that makes you happy to wake up and do what impact you want to create. When your on-call is messy or your stand-up sucks, you can actually talk about it in the team and make them better. And as a result of this, your team consistently hits the goals and you just genuinely feel happy about being part of it. Now, take your time and just let that settle on your body and feel that positive effects of what trust feels like. And it's wonderful because one way or another, we all want to be part of a place like this, whether we are an engineer in the team or a manager who is steering the direction of the team, or even an organization that wants to create teams like this. So how do we get to build one is what I would like to explore with you today. My name is Bushra. I run my own company now, Humans in Systems, because I care about humans in tech, where I coach and mentor engineers, early career managers, and I help organizations make incident response more fun, collaborative, and humans. In fact, I talked about incidents 2 years ago on this stage. Before starting my own adventure, though, I spent over a decade doing reliability and infrastructure work and be part of the Devops SRE infrastructure team. Whatever you call your organization, I was part of them for almost a decade. And for my entire career, it felt like this. Can you relate to it, that it always has more than you can possibly handle? It always had more than that. And when something new came up that other teams didn't have much capacity of, or they didn't know what they need to do, it would always end up in my team. From creating Kubernetes clusters, doing things on site, or even helping developers to expose right metrics, it had a long range of topics, very busy Slack support channel with very little people to respond. And my wish was one day to do this really differently, because I was an IC, and to get to build a team where I can do whatever that actually works and harness the power of intelligent group of multipliers. And then I got there, and I had no run book. I was already a big part of an SRE group where we were doing all kind of SRE things, and now we wanted to split off and do a team just focused on incident management in a 5,000 organization, 5,000 people organization. I was really excited because this is the thing that I was really passionate about as a topic. And some folks came from somewhere in the company, and some people were entirely new. We had a slightly extended context. Even though we were a team now, we really never worked together. And up to that point, I read countless of management books because I really wanted to get there. But I was also really worried if I was able to pull off completely new set of people. And thank God, this magic run book appeared to me on the times when there was a Twitter. And that became my North Star, and that's also the inspiration of this tool. So let me introduce you to Tuckman's group development model. It was developed in 1965 by psychologist Bruce Tuckman. This model says that teams go through 4 stages or groups to become, it's necessary and inevitable to become a performing team that they are. And each of these stages needs different kind of support from a leader or a manager to get to the next. And when you get there, you, as a manager, really need to know where your team is so that you can be that and fill the gaps. When I came with this model, it really landed with me because I knew exactly where we were. We were in the forming stage. And I could really focus on what I wanted to do. And I didn't see this in any of the management books before. Now, if you see the team topologies book, it's actually mentioned there. I saw that later. So quick disclaimer, this talk is about the happy path. And I know we don't test about happy path in software. We love failure stories and challenges and everything. But this is really going to be all this path that I went through with my team. And because this topic is extremely abstract, I'm not going to talk about transparency and autonomy and all these things, but I'm going to give you a lot of practical strategies moving through these stages. So it starts with forming and storming. This feels a little bit like a roller coaster. I put them together because they're highly tight. So this stage, your team and you included have a little bit of an excitement of something new. That's why it's a little bit high, and people are excited about coming together. There's a new org, and there's a new team. But there's also a little bit of anxiety about something unfamiliar. There's new people. And even though you might look like a team now, you're also a little bit isolated because you don't know these people that you're working with. And one of my biggest fears as a manager was really doing too much. And this gave me all the reasons to do just what my team needed. Because at this time, your team needs a lot of hands-on support. So it needs a lot of introduction, facilitations, and you need to show them a little bit of a big picture. So let's start with this. Raise your hand if your team actually has a written mission statement that you understand. Like 8. So little. And yet product teams usually have a clear mission. They even have a user base, profiles. They even have a project managers. They know what they're doing and how it relates to business. But we rarely have this in the platform teams, even though we handle a lot more than one can see. So even though in a nutshell, we all know that our mission is enabling other people autonomously deliver value easier, faster, and safer. But your mission, your specific mission statement, should lay out the how. And so the first thing that we did was to create a mission and vision statement together. I really value about the co-creation because that's how people own something. So the first thing is, what do we do? So if I need to give you an example, I'm going to give my teams. So we build a culture of resilience by using incidents as learning opportunities for the entire organization. Why is this important? Because we build a culture of resilience, because incidents are a natural part of complex systems, and the best thing we can do to helping them to use the return of investment the best way that we can. And how do we do this? Here you can lay out all the hows, all the tools that you have. We aim to support every stage of an incident, from on-call to response to learning, by giving people the right tools, the care, and the partnership. And our stakeholders are huge. You can also put down together that who are the people that you're serving. And lastly, where do we want to get to? We envision an organization where every engineer is empowered to respond to emergent events with confidence, resilience, and not weighed down by stress or burnout. I'm sharing this not because you should copy, and you can, but it also shows you what's possible. If you're building a platform or a CI/CD pipeline or certain compute layer, you can write your own purpose, and that speaks to you and why it matters and brings people together. Because once we did this, it really became like a shared mantra, where people could really use it when they are going to other meetings to introduce each other. They could share it with another team to give an example. It kind of gave them the clarity and the confidence, like, this is what we do, and that's why we exist. And so it gave us early on that common language where we know what we were building, and that's not just this tool that is in GitHub. And the other important thing during this phase, the forming and storming, is having regular one-on-ones, but also with each other. So not just with the manager, but with also the team members. I think it's a little bit uncommon, not very common, but I genuinely believe that in this stage it created a lot of value, because trust is built in these small places where we keep showing up with each other. And this gave people that smaller, more comfortable setting to show up with each other, where they could talk about whatever that helped them to connect. And that connection later would show up in our team meetings with more confidence. And eventually they would use these times to pair work, and you should definitely prioritize, hyper-prioritize pair work and collaboration, but also they did hold one-on-ones together where they could talk about anything. These are the two things that I just wanted to share with you on this stage. As you go through a little bit towards a place where people get to know each other and they know why they are together, you start to get to the norming stage where now you really have to shape what works. During this stage, you usually feel like you have a little bit of a sense of purpose, a little bit more confidence, and engaged and supported. And during this time, you really, as a manager or a leader or a senior in the team, your team needs a little bit less from you. It needs more recognition of the team efforts, regular feedbacks, and monitoring the energy so you can see how things are going. I'm going to give you two examples, but I don't think they're going to be new, but at least they're going to give you a little bit about how we adapted them for ourselves. How many of you have retrospectives on a regular basis? And how many of you find them valuable? More or less, yes. I think they're extremely important to create psychological safety. And the things that we especially made sure that happen in our retrospective is that everything was welcome, such as my cat was sick or I got food poisoned last night. Because life continues to happen even when we are at work. And if we are able to talk about that, that's how we can kind of create the psychological safety in our teams. And it's really worth surfacing that. Lastly, you know how retros are, probably yours also have. It has what went well and what can go better. And the last column that was a default for us was appreciation. Every 2 weeks, we did say thank you to something, to each other or somebody else in our team. So if I took over someone's on-call rotation because they had to take their cat to the vet, they could definitely thank me for that. And imagine you do this every 2 weeks for 3 years in a group of people. And that's kind of the environment that kind of creates, that is very, very fostered in gratitude and safety. Lastly, we rotated this facilitation. As a leader or anybody in the team, I really didn't own the retros. We already used the tool for it. We knew what to do. We were a completely remote team. So if I was on sick, somebody else would do it. Next other 2 weeks, somebody else could pick it on, because all we had to do, put out our opinions and then talk about what was most voted. And it doesn't really need someone specifically to do them. Very similar to retros, you also probably have stand-ups. Early in my career, I sat through so many useless stand-ups that people would come in, try to say something slightly different than yesterday, just to sound like progress was being made. We would go around the circle, listening to updates that we didn't need, and for work that no one needed help with. It was a ritual that had actually no purpose, and I think we can do better. Because these rituals are really our tools, just like any other tools that we adopt in DevOps or any other place. They are tools, and like any other tool, they should work for us. They should be in a place where they create the most value for us, and not the other way around. And you can do this with your rituals too. They are not as abstract as we think. So instead of stand-ups, we did check-ins, which was 30 minutes meetings twice a week. This had a co-created agenda, so it wasn't about the tasks, but people could write down what they wanted to talk about, something that they needed help with. They could share a learning, or they needed to give us a heads up. They needed to change an on-call rotation, whatever that was. They could put it on the agenda, and that's what we talked about. And if we didn't have anything, we would skip the meeting, and that would have been totally okay. And once you build this kind of rhythm, something cool starts to happen as you go through slowly towards a performing stage. And in this stage, it feels like there's a little bit of a high motivation. There's a consistent performance, there's a bit of a high autonomy, and what it needs during this time is really very minimal intervention as opposed to first. You celebrate a lot more success, what's going on, and also you collectively, continuously enable collective decision making. You probably ask, okay, it looks like retros and plannings, everything goes like whatever OKRs. We do these OKRs that no one wants to do, and I need to write a document every quarter that also looks a little bit like stand-ups, that I need to change the words. That looks slightly different, but we just want to continue doing what is in our backlog. And I feel that way. When I became manager, this became even especially harder because I knew the work, and now I had to make up words for it. The one thing that really helped me was to find a way where I can put business priorities with people's interests or ideas, because that's how actual work is actually done. So one thing that really helped us to do a quarterly brainstorming sessions, it's very similar to retros. It's going to have one place where there are celebrations. You can talk about what was amazing about a quarter, what you achieved, what was good, then what we lacked, certain things that we couldn't do, or we wanted to do more autonomy, we didn't have it, anything. And the last session would have ideas you would like to push, so that anyone in the team could write about, I'm really passionate about this, I would like our next quarter to have some space to do this. And just like the retro, we would then vote on these ideas, and I would also get a little bit of a sense of what the most people excited about in certain projects and how do they feel into our next OKRs. And it also gave me, then I would take these things and run with my own context and with my own manager, and then eventually draft an OKR doc that looked nothing like a surprise to anybody in my team. And I also insisted not changing OKRs. So even if I don't think it's realistic that our objectives changes every 3 months, because we cannot possibly have a different goal in 3 months from now. So I at least kept them for 6 months so that we could continue nurturing certain goals, and I didn't have to come up with new words for it. And during this high-performing stage, or towards that, one thing that you might now sit back, because you have a little bit more space to look at your team, is to, what are we missing that could be potentially good addition to the team? And the one thing that I really, if there is one thing I want you to take out of this talk, would be this amazing practices that we run with my team when we were actually on site, is to create a team metrics. And team metrics is a thing that kind of shows you what you miss, what skills that needs in your team, and how you can find the gaps. And it looks like this. So in the first column, you have skills, technologies, areas of knowledge. And you come up with it with your team together. What makes this team successful at its goal? Well, we write our tools in Golang, so we need to be quite efficient in Golang. We train people for incident management, or we go to a lot of people to talk with different stakeholders, so we need to be good at a little bit with public speaking. And you can write Terraform, you can write all kinds of areas that your team uses day to day. And then there is 3 other columns that one says, I can learn it, and I'm interested in it. I can do it, and I can teach it. Then everyone goes around the room and then put their names under these things. So, for example, Jen says, Golang, it was a new person in the team. I don't really know Golang so much, but I'm really interested in learning it. Bushra is me, I can do it, I'm quite sufficient in it. And Jeremy is pretty good at Golang and maybe could help Jen to get better. And the same way the other way, so people could, I thought it was important that people also could put what they're interested in, it's not. I found this thing on the internet and I kind of created my own version of it. Because that could kind of see where people's interests are. What are the areas that we could help each other to learn more about? And then if there's something that I'm really lacking, this would make our team a lot better. And next time I need to hire someone, I know how to write a new job description that could really put down those things that my team is missing. Because after all, your team is bigger than some of these people. And its own entity, and we don't, in fact, need to have similar people. We need to have as diverse perspectives and skills as possible. And having these kind of things together with your team, not only that creates a lot of clarity in the team itself, but it also gives you as a manager kind of a gold mine. It actually also created a couple of conversations in the team where people were so humble to tell or put their name into, I can teach it. Some other person would say, no, you're really good at it. You can totally teach me this. You're perfect with it. And then they could put their name into the same column. Now, later research shows that storming actually happens throughout the team development. So you can imagine that it always repeats itself, kind of, even though it's slowly going up. And it makes sense, because your team don't stay static. They shift, they grow, someone leaves, someone joins, and priorities evolve. So this kind of friction and certain things can return in very small waves, even in high-trust teams. So there was actually someone in my team that really loved being there. He was, since the beginning, that he was able to contribute to the team, but somehow he always struggled to finish things on time. So in the beginning, this is okay because you're still trying to find your footing and trying to understand how everyone is doing. But it became especially clear after we did the skill metrics, and then he realized that there are skills that he has that our team cannot provide opportunities to grow. And you always know when someone is not able to just tap into their potential just because their environment is not right. It's most of the time everyone goes to work to do a good job. No one wants to actually stay on the behind or not see that their efforts are paying off. And because now that we built enough trust and we tried everything in our team, it was confusing to him to leave this good place, but we could have a good conversations about an environment, about skills, about what this team exactly needs and what they need to know or learn or teach. So eventually we were able to find him another internal team. We selected together, me and him, and then we looked at these teams, especially their sprints, how their mission looks like, how do they create tickets, how clear they're on their tickets, so they could kind of have some ideas about if he would like somewhere like that. And not only that actually helped him to find another place, but he was also having this idea of what a good team rituals looks like, how to look at certain things, and he could find a better place for himself. And the other storming happened when I decided to leave my team. I left this team about 9 months ago. It was a lot. It was due to a long overdue career break that I always wanted to have. And it was the first time I left a job as a manager, and it definitely is harder than any other job that I left, because when you create something so nice and you put your own heart in it and you love the people you work with, you really worry about how this change is going to affect them. And I think the reason that didn't affect them so much because they knew what they created now and they could go on a little bit until the replacement was there. Now that I talked to them after this many months, because I told them I'm giving this talk, they did mention that how much stretch that was, because two people stepped up to do some of the more stakeholder management, some of the more writing OKRs and things like that. now they actually know what also a manager does and how kind of helps them move a little bit further. But eventually, they were able to choose their own manager and actually make sure that the legacy, their own, what they created could go on. And I want you to know that DevOps is enabling. And if we don't experience that, I don't know how we're going to make it possible for other people. So if you're in a team that you don't feel yourself that's enabled, you can always make these things better. And you have a power to do that. A team has more engineers than a manager. So don't also forget as an individual contributor to have that power, because enabling is bigger than managing. And rituals, like any other tools, I don't think you got many new things from here, maybe about the models, maybe about the metrics, but they are any other tools that you're using. So please use them and adapt them to your own needs and continuously make them work for you. And lastly, autonomy is not about giving people whatever they need to do and then they do it, and or I don't know how everyone thinks about autonomy, but it really comes with clarity and trust. People are not extremely autonomous when they have fear. They can do those things and it might look like autonomy, but the real autonomy where people can empower to take what they want to do and they can push it towards what is even there possible, they can only do that when they have enough clarity and they have a trust to come back and talk about things. And if we have high support with each other, we have more empathy for our users. If we feel that we are more empowered to do our own choices in our team, we can make better choices for our users that we enable. And with that, that's my talk. I'm really curious if I am this early. Has it been only 16 minutes?
4 minutes early.
4 minutes early?
No more.
Okay, I'm seeing, oh, it is the time. Yeah. Okay, because I'm like, I was so confused. But thank you so much for being here. And also, I made these stickers. If you take them already, because I put them and they were all gone, I still have some. Come talk to me. I didn't put any branding on that because I don't like as an engineer to put something on my laptop that has a branding. But someone told me very tiny letters, I can put it next time so you know where to go and find me. I think I might do that next time. Thank you very much. Yeah. Enjoy your rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is this on? It is. Thank you so much. We'll take just a minute if there's any questions from the audience. If there is, Bram is going to run around with the microphone to you. If not, I'm sure you'll be available for a little bit.
Yes, I'm available for the drinks, for the game, for all the things today. So I'm going to come find you. I see you have a question.
There is a question.
Oh. Should we take it or not? I don't mind.
Yeah,
We got a minute.
we got 3 minutes in the schedule. So.
Okay.
Someone is running over.
It's coming to us.
So it seems that you had a very motivated team. You also gave an example where you had to deal with someone that didn't truly fit in.
Yes.
But how do you deal with bad actors? There's people that are not always as motivated or as socially skilled. There might also be heroes. How do you deal with those people in that situation, people that make the environment unsafe?
Yes. I don't think you can have hard conversation with someone if you couldn't create enough trust. So I like to create that trust first, to understand why this person is acting even the way they do. Because most of us as humans do things because we have unfulfilled needs. And those needs, sometimes we take different strategies to get them. And those strategies might look like a hero in an incident or might look like something else in the team, but there is always something, a fundamental human need behind that person doesn't have the right strategies to get to. And I can only understand that if I have enough conversations and talk with this person. So that's why I think I take enough time to talk and understand the dynamics of that situation. Similar to incidents, right? We never look at the root cause, we look at the entire environment of contributing factors. So I like to look at it, everything around it, that what makes the challenges for that person challenging in this team. So I don't know if it is a right answer, but it's work.
It's a lovely answer, very empathic and very appreciating of the person you're dealing with. So thank you.
Thank you too.
All right, another round of applause for Bizra. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's yours.
That is mine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Apparently, I need this to talk to you all. All right, so we are at the closing of day one. How's everyone feeling? Happy? Good day? I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Thankfully, you did too. Of course, it wouldn't be possible without all of these fine companies. Here on the slide, I hope you enjoyed the coffee by Progress Chef. We had a couple of super nice sponsors, Elastic, Exoskill, Akamai, UpCloud, Nationale Nederlanden, and Commodore. As gold sponsors, we do appreciate their help making this event possible. So clap your hands once more for our great sponsors. Who, coincidentally, at least a couple of them, would like to come on stage and give you free stuff. That is nice. We'll start with Elastic. I have no idea who to look at. I'm sure they're here. They are. And they are going to give away things.
Thanks, goodies.
And stuff.
And the famous Elastic Elk. Or Elkie. Which has a little bit more sunburned color than on the flyer was, but I think it's still going to be very nice. We had a Kahoot quiz, which lots of you filled in. We have a winner and we have a random pick, as said on the flyer. The winner was Bartos. I don't know if he's in the...
He is in the room. Give him a round of applause.
There you go.
Thank you. And then if the photographer is anywhere near, I don't see him. He is. Let's take a pretty picture with a sponsor, please. If you don't mind showing what you won so that you can make the rest of the audience jealous. It is the way. There's 20 things in there, right? Awesome.
Awesome.
Good luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, congratulations.
We have one more, right?
Yeah, we have one more, and that is Sabot Golfe.
Is he in the room? Or are they?
Anybody? Sabot Golfe. Ah, awesome. I see somebody step up.
And then he also has to show all of the things he won.
Congratulations.
All right, so next up is Exoskill. You want to hold it yourself?
Yes.
Easier. Go ahead.
So yes, we have as a first prize a wonderful
I'll hold it for you.
Lego Yoda, and whoever wins it needs to build it on stage now.
Yeah? Winning.
It's Robert Martot.
From Gemini? Robert?
I heard a lot of no way, but no Robert. There's somebody running to get in?
Let's count down as an audience. 5, 4,
3, 2. No, but he's still here? It is. Let's give him one more second, minute.
And then we need to move on.
Yes. Otherwise, unfortunately, I have to take it home.
We can pick another name.
Then Paul von Hoof.
There he is.
Then you're the lucky one.
Whoa, really?
Okay, great. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Welcome. And then we have 2 more of those little ones, Monty called. Corsi L. L. Corsi.
Stick his name back.
I trust you. Enjoy your Monty.
And last but not least.
The last one is go to Georgios Dalanis. Hey! Enjoy, man.
All right, thank you, Exoskill. Next up, Commodore.
Hi everyone, we are from Commodore and we'll be giving away these VR set, one today and one for tomorrow. Those of you who forgot to enter the raffle, tomorrow is your chance for the second try of one of these. Come to our booth and let's have a talk.
In terms of the name, in Dutch, with the prizes, kom maar door. Kom maar door with the prizes. So, let's pull one ticket then. Kom maar door, kom maar door. That's also a little bit of Brabant, of course. I'm very Brabant. Kom maar door, kom maar door, kom maar door. And the number is?
22.
22.
Who's got the ticket number 22? All the prizes go to me in case of no... Hey!
Oh man, yeah. Yeah, the man with the Nikes. Okay, cool. Enjoy, man. Get a photo. Hey, get a photo. Come on. Yes. Photo. Picture. Yes.
Let's do this sort of selfie. Hey.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, Commodore. Last but not least, we have Sync. Yes, I hear a yes. There is the yes. Shall I hold the mic for you?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Mark from Sync. We had 2 prizes to give away today. The fun exit game, which you could win by playing Cube Doom at our stand. Right before the end of the day, the high score of 5 was obliterated by Daniel Botke by a score of 28. So this one's for you. If he's here. Enjoy. And the other prize was through our raffle. We're giving away a Raspberry Pi 5 starter kit. We'll do it again tomorrow, so if you don't win today, be sure to come back tomorrow to our stand over in the meeting room. And the winner is Sander Wulp. Nice.
All right. And of course, we couldn't end the raffles without doing one ourselves. So please, Stefan, if you don't mind, grabbing our present.
I will. Yeah, we had a LinkedIn raffle, and there were 2 conditions we asked for. Repost our post and show up now at this moment. Diana Todea, she's here. Shall we count down from 10 to 1? Does that make sense, or do we do 20? Anybody? Yeah, everybody was entitled to compete, except our organizers. So if Diana's not here, we go to the lucky number 2, which is Jana Brummel. Right. Woo! Lekker hoor. Congrats, Jana. Enjoy it. They will not spoil, so that's good.
Awesome. All right. So let's see if my clicker still works. Would be fun if it does. There we go. All right. So we couldn't do this without a bunch of people helping us. We are a team of 10 people. We are always looking for more help. We're also looking for feedback, suggestions, tips. Hard critique is also allowed. Be nice about it. So if you have anything to share, amsterdam@devopsdays.org. And I would like all of you to give a small round of applause to the remaining 9 organizers who are supposedly all in the room. Thank you so much for organizing. And then I was promised someone who would come up the stage to help us out here with this almost final slide. I promise we're almost done.
Thank you. So in case you didn't have enough conference, there's going to be another one in 2 weeks in Utrecht. It's going to be around cloud native, a lot of Kubernetes, AI, sustainability. We're going to have a track for diversity as well. A lot of workshops, beginners, advanced. And it's the first event powered by a new foundation which will support open source in Netherlands. So if you're part of a community which needs a little bit of funding, please be there, because the members of the foundation will be there as well and give you more information about how we can actually make a little bit your community thrive and build and create more events. So there's a QR code that will take you to a website where you can actually get a discount. That's the discount code, community30. It will give you 30% from already a very affordable ticket. And if you're staying tomorrow for the quiz pub, you may get as well, tonight, you may get as well some free tickets. So, yeah, thank you.
Awesome. All right. Of course, I can't leave the stage without plugging our 2 meetups that we have. We have one in Amsterdam. Of course, we also have one in Eindhoven. So if you are interested in meetups, come join us at one of the many meetups we organize. The URLs are on screen. You can find us on the website. So we're done for today, almost. Tomorrow at 9:30 sharp, we will all be back here in this room, hopefully. If you're not, I'll come and visit you and pick you up from downstairs. So we'll do a welcome, 9:30. First keynote is 9:45, and we'll continue today pretty much as we did today. We have talks, we have keynotes, we have open spaces, we have lunch, all of the good stuff. For now, this is really my last slide. We're going to go downstairs. We're going to enjoy a beverage of your choice. That starts right now at around 5 o'clock. In about an hour, we'll have dinner. Downstairs, we'll have burgers, noodles, a bunch of other stuff. So I hope you do enjoy that. And then at, I think it's 7:30, right? We'll be back here for the people that want to do a pub quiz in this room. You're also free to stay downstairs and have conversations. With that, I want to thank you so much for being here today, and we'll see each other tomorrow morning.